Alright, so the MacBook Pro has been out for a couple of months now, which usually is enough time for the hype to settle down. This is really important because when an Apple product comes out, there are two kinds of extreme camps, and unfortunately, tech reviewers are often in one or the other. One being people who believe they were just destined to take dumps on Apple for the rest of their foreseeable lives, which is quite sad actually. And then you have the other extreme kind of people who literally defend Apple like parents defend their spoiled 6-year-old children nowadays, which is also quite sad, unfortunately. However, thankfully, the vast majority of us are in the middle camp where we just want to objectively see what Apple gets right and what it doesn't with these new lineup of MacBook Pro products. Of course, I'm going to cover everything in detail, and I also got the base configuration of the 14-inch MacBook Pro because I believe this is the most popular configuration and the one that sets a minimum standard of what you can expect no matter which MacBook Pro you get. So, of course, this one has the 10-core M2 Pro chip. It also has the 16-core GPU. Additionally, we have 16 gigabytes of unified memory. We also have the base 512 gigabyte solid state drive, Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 standards, and like I mentioned, this is the 14-inch variant of the MacBook Pro. There is a lot to cover with this laptop, and hopefully I can have you going a little bit more informed after this review is done. So let's get started. Design-wise, nothing's really changed compared to the previous M1 generation of MacBook Pros, and I think that's totally acceptable. I mean, after all, it's only second generation with that design, and this is a very well thought out design. Yes, it's chunkier than previous MacBook Pros, but it's super utilitarian, and that sharp industrial design kind of has something special about it. I love how linear those edges are with those rounded corners and super symmetrical looks. It just has a classy Pro type look. Now, with that said, Apple of course uses the finest materials from top to bottom, so you have a fully metallic exterior. That does add up a fair bit of weight though, around 3.5 pounds. This is a heavy 14-inch laptop. Now, with that said, you'll notice I got this in the silver color. There's one and only one reason for that this thing is a fingerprint magnet, and the silver color does a far better job at masking those fingerprints than the Sprayscape variant does. Nonetheless though, I think again, it's a beautiful laptop, and I love that shiny Apple logo on the top. On the sides of this laptop is where you'll find all the I/O ports. So on one side you have the MagSafe 3 charging port, two fully loaded Thunderbolt 4 ports, a headphone jack. On the other side, you have a HDMI 2.1 port, which is an upgrade compared to last year's 2.0 port. And also you'll notice you have one more Thunderbolt 4 port and a full-sized SD card reader. While I do think it would be useful to include a USB-A port even in 2023, overall I think this is a pretty fair selection of ports, and it's pretty reasonable for a laptop of this class. The bottom of this laptop looks very nice and simple, so you have a high quality metallic exterior, and you'll notice you have this really nice engraving with the words MacBook Pro, truly befitting. Now you will notice on either corner you have these large slots or holes, and these are of course the air intake vents, one on each side. Now at the top rear side is where you have a long and massive heat exhaust vent. This is where all the hot air comes out of the laptop from, and of course having a good cooling system is super essential given this is a heavy-duty machine. Unfolding this laptop briefly makes you forget how much money you spent on this thing. Just the way that chassis looks is so clean and perfectly set up. Look at the way the silver color contrasts against the black color of the keyboard. Now of course the palm rest space here is pretty decent for a 14-inch laptop, but the real highlight by far is that larger than life glass surface trackpad. It looks so nice, and it's as practical as it looks. So you have super tactile and crisp clicks, and I also love how they're sturdy but at the same time have a little bit of softness to them. Now beyond that, there is no flex whatsoever across any area of the trackpad, and of course the clicks are super well calibrated. This is probably the only trackpad that I would defaultly use as opposed to a mouse from day one on a laptop. The keyboard is just as exceptional, so look how large those keycaps are. You have so much surface area, they're super well labeled, the black color is just so nice in terms of bringing out personality for this keyboard. It's fully backlit with a strong backlighting system at that, and of course you have a built-in Touch ID sensor which doubles as the power button. Now you don't get a 10 keypad, which is a compromise you make with a 14-inch laptop, and you'll also notice on either corner you you have large speaker grills. It is a top-firing speaker system. We'll do a sound test later on in the video. And of course, the best part about this keyboard is the actual typing experience. Every keystroke feels so tactile. You get the illusion of having a lot more key travel than you actually do. I would say this is my second favorite keyboard. It's behind Lenovo. Lenovo just has something really good about their keyboard quality that I feel no other company does as good. But again, this is a phenomenal keyboard by every aspect. The hinge mechanism continues to be super reliable, so again, you'll see there's no wobble whatsoever. I also love how this is one of the few laptop lids you can lift with practically a single hand. And of course, I also love how fluid the motion is, though I will say that 140-degree tilt is a little bit restrictive. Display fitting here is pretty impressive, though not quite as immersive as Dell's Infinity Edge display. So you have a fairly thin chin, though there is a notable amount of black space at the bottom. The bezels are pretty narrow, like most modern day laptops. And then at the top, you have a very thin forehead, that is until you get to the big fat notch. Now me personally, I don't mind it at all. I got used to it within 3 seconds. It's not even there for me. I know some people hate it with a passion. What I do really appreciate, however, is the high quality webcam we have here. So of course, it's a full HD webcam, but the software integration here is really nice to the extent that Apple does a great job at making your image appear crisp and sharp across various lighting settings. Apple's Liquid Retina XDR display is more than just a fancy name. It is genuinely one of the best parts of this laptop. So you have a mini LED panel here with a resolution of 3024 by 1964, which gives you a PPI of 254 approximately. Past that, you do have a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio, and yes, you do have ProMotion technology giving you a refresh rate of up to 120 Hz. Sadly, there is PWM flicker at low brightness levels here, though you'll be happy to know you have a maximum peak brightness of 1600 nits. This thing is trying to compete with the sun, though to be fair, SDR and HDR ratings cap at around 500 and 1000 nits respectively, so the 1600 is peak, not sustained. With that said though, you also have amazing color accuracy here, so you have a 100+% sRGB coverage or approximately 99% DCI-P3, meaning colors here look accurate, vivid, lively, and are great for anyone who's doing color sensitive activities like photo or video editing, for example. Still watching? I'm so happy to see that. Firstly, thank you so much for your viewership. You guys are the reason I can continue to make these videos. With that said though, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video, as it genuinely helps pave the future of this channel and keeps me motivated to produce more quality content for you awesome people. Let's keep going. In terms of performance, keep in mind this is the lowest end configuration you can get for the MacBook Pro series. With that said though, the base M2 Pro chip is more than sufficient for the vast majority of activities, whether it's web browsing, watching videos on the web, or crunching Word documents. Obviously, those kind of activities are going to be seamless. Even more demanding activities like programming on Python, for example, or perhaps let's say you're doing 3D modeling or rendering on Blender, they're going to be really seamless even with the base 16GB of memory and 10-core M2 Pro chip. Now, when you do 4K multi-layer video editing, there's a few things I noticed. Firstly, on DaVinci Resolve, for example, I noticed that the timeline is flawless. There's never any frame drops, there's no lag, and no matter how many layers you add, even if it's 10-bit with color grading going on, it's going to work seamlessly. However, render times are disappointing as they're only marginally faster than the M1 Pro chip and lag far behind the likes of the M1 Max and obviously the M2 Max chip as well. Now, with that said, I would highly recommend getting 32GB of unified memory, as that does speed up render speeds a little bit and reduces hard drive swapping, which is a common problem we've noticed with some of the newer MacBooks, and it's one of the best ways you can reduce hard drive swapping in the first place. Now, if you are one of the few people who are doing full-time gaming on a MacBook, that is a recipe for getting bullied at school. Nonetheless though, you'll be happy to know most casual games, the ones you can find running in the first place, actually run quite smooth even with the 16-core base GPU version. Thermals on this machine are pretty good, and they're far better than anything Intel or AMD have in that regard for the same level of performance. However, they're not exemplary either. For example, under unrealistic peak loads, I hit a maximum average surface temperature of up to 43 degrees Celsius, though more realistic sustained loads yielded around 36 degrees Celsius, which are decent numbers, but again, not groundbreaking. What is impressive, on the other hand, is the fan noise. Throughout my entire time of testing this laptop, not once have the fans actually activated, and I did try. Now with that said, there is a theoretical maximum of 43 decibels in terms of fan noise that this laptop can hit, but that's under extreme CPU loads for prolonged periods, and even that only for very brief moments. In short, the cooling system on here is super quiet, and this is probably the quietest heavy-duty laptop you can buy in 2023. You have a 69 watt hour battery, and you can get up to 12 and a half hours on a single charge based on our real world test. This pretty much blows any other high performance PC out of the water at light speed. Now what's equally impressive is the sound speaker system on here. As you might have guessed, it's robust, it's got a lot of depth, and while it's not going to replace your HomePods anytime soon, in case you forget your headphones, it's a great alternative. Here's a quick sound test for you.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight.
With a starting price of $2,000 US, this is a deadly expensive machine. However, Apple knows this, but they also know they're providing you with a lot of value in other ways. For example, the MacBook Pro eliminates a lot of the common nuances that we find with the modern day laptop. You get fantastic performance that can squeeze every bit of performance, whether it's on charge or not, from the M2 Pro chip. These laptops run considerably cooler than anything the competition have. 12 and a half hours of real world usage is absolutely insane and amazing for a Pro Series laptop. You get a display befitting of a high performance laptop, something that a lot of PC manufacturers often cheap out on, even at the more expensive level. Overall, as you can see, this laptop kind of tries to get the best of everything, and for the most part it exceeds in that. The thing is though, if you don't need one or more of these areas, then there are other alternatives that cost far less and will give you similar outputs in one or more areas as well. For example, let's say you don't care so much about the display quality, but you want a high performing machine. You can invest in a lot of laptops that have H series processors by Intel, but with a lesser display, and save a ton of money that way. Nonetheless though, the MacBook Pro is definitely a jack of all trades, actually a king of all trades kind of laptop that does charge a fair bit for what it offers though. Now with that said, if you don't need the laptop aspects, consider getting the considerably cheaper $1,300 M2 Pro Mac Mini, which will give you the exact same performance, if not slightly better, for a much lesser price tag. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the latest MacBook Pros, and I'd like to know if you're interested in actually getting one, what your thoughts are overall about the product. And as always, thank you so much for watching this content. You guys are the reason I can do all this. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing and liking this video. I'll catch you in the next one.